views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hey there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to writers and journalists and editors and other people who put stuff out, filmmakers, photographers, videographers. In our second segment today, we have a videographer who has starred in a couple of things on networks, on HBO and elsewhere. But now she's got her own little short series, and we're going to talk about that in the second part of our show. But in the first part of our show, coming up right now, a friend of mine, I can't deny, Neil DeMoss, and I know him for a long time. He's a book, magazine, and newspaper journalist, a former news editor at the former Village Voice, and a contributing writer for City Limits. He's also a real good sports fan, on and on and on. Hi, Neil. Nice to see you.
Great to be here.
Neil began a series for City Limits that the first piece was called Whatever Happened to the CBAs, the Community Benefits Agreements, and subheading The Rise and Fall of Community Benefits Agreements in New York City. I got to tell you, it was an eye-opening article because when I started to consider what you were laying out there, I said, you know what, Neil is on to something. And my first real hands-on experience about it was the Kingsbridge Armory, which I appreciated that you started the piece and ended the piece with the two Bronx projects that had CBAs, and that was Yankee Stadium and that whole deal, and then of course the Kingsbridge Armory. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's start in general. What made you say this is something we ought to cover?
It's something that I'd sort of been aware of for a long time. I remember when the first big community benefits agreement happened out in Los Angeles with the development around the Staples Center. And, it sort of started spreading across the country, this idea of, hey, maybe communities can start getting something in exchange for these developments happening on their doorsteps. By sitting down with the developers and trying to come to some sort of agreement of some kind of benefits that would go towards not just the city as a whole or the state as a whole, but that people actually live and work there. And there were all this series of, as you mentioned, the Yankees. There was Kingsbridge. There was the Bronx Terminal Market was one of the first ones. The Nets Arena in Brooklyn. Columbia University's expansion into Manhattanville. In a very short span of time, in the sort of late aughts, right, had this series of community benefits agreements. So City Limits and I were talking about, going and taking a look at how that went and sort of why it seemed to sort of die off after that. And again, I knew a little bit about this going in, but the more research I did, the more commonalities I found between the different projects.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of talk, obviously, and I'll go back to the two Bronx projects about Yankee Stadium and the Bronx Terminal Market. I can't tell you how many programs we did on that project. The one thing I remember was the discussion about the merchants at the old Bronx Terminal Market. They were largely suppliers of bodegas in the Bronx and elsewhere in New York City, and they were all going to be relocated. They were all going to do well. As I understand part of the process, if I remember correctly, they were supposed to be relocated actually near Willets Point, near Shea, at that time, Shea Stadium. And all of a sudden that deal fell through. And then it was, who knows? And of course, many of the businesses, I'm sure, were lost. So that was that one. And then Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. negotiated the Kingsbridge Armory CBA, hailed as the greatest community benefits agreement in America. And of course, we're still waiting for that project. So what happened? What happened to these that they fell? Your analysis, I thought, was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of big problems, common problems with CBAs as they've kind of developed, right? The original idea was that community groups sit down, figure out what they want, and go to the developer and say, okay, here's a list of things that would make this worthwhile for us. If you want us not to raise a stink and complain to our elected officials about this, figure out a way to make this work for us as well as for you. And as it developed, I think both developers and elected officials begin to realize, well, we can get out ahead of this, right? By saying, well, all right, we want to do a community benefits agreement. That's the way it happened with the Nets arena. Was Bruce Ratner came in and said he wanted to do one with Related, with the Bronx Terminal Market, with the Yankees. It didn't come particularly from the community.
So why did these things fail? I mean, it was in writing, and everybody presumably was interested in playing ball, so to speak. Why didn't it work?
Well, the problem is who the everybody is, right? And then the you can have a community benefits agreement. Look at the Nets deal, right? Bruce Ratner didn't go and say, okay, who are all the stakeholders in downtown Brooklyn who are either living there or working there, and or working in the community, and figure out what they need. It was, well, who can I get on board to sign something with me agreeing to endorse my project. So you had Acorn was the one big group that agreed to go along with him, and then you had a whole lot of smaller groups that either were not necessarily right from that community. They were maybe a little further away, or some of them didn't even exist until Bruce Ratner signed a deal with them and wound up funding some of them.
So they
The
kind
problem
of
is
set it up.
it's cherry picking is the problem, right? And a similar thing happened with the Bronx Terminal Market, where there was a larger group of community groups that were selected by Adolfo Carrion, that were brought into the room and negotiated, but most of those didn't actually sign the deal. It was 4 groups that signed the deal, a couple of which were directly connected to the city administration. So Hostess Community College is probably not going to complain a lot, about the city's negotiation of a deal.
Right,
So,
because their own funding comes from that source. So, we've had these. All of a sudden, has the dialogue about them been eliminated? So, in other words, if I don't know, let's say use the potential of a soccer stadium in the Bronx, if that is built and there are some give backs from the community to give back the land, to give back maybe parkland. It's hard to say exactly what's going to happen. Are you saying that forget the idea of a CBA because it's not going to work? Or do you think it's still going to be pursued and maybe the process could be improved?
I think it's less likely that there's going to be something that's called a CBA, just because
Because
that term is kind of burned in New York a little bit.
everybody found out it didn't work.
Because everybody found out that there are loopholes and ways for the developer to use it to their own ends. Or look, I guess a better way of saying it probably is, I mean, everybody wants to use it to their own ends, right? But there's a power imbalance, right? And the developer, especially if they're close to the elected officials, can manage to do it in a way that they're not giving up anything really of particular value, and are getting the benefit of saying, "Oh, we have a community benefits agreement. Don't worry, we're good with the community." So I think what you're going to see going forward, I mean, when Amazon was talking about coming into Queens,
Right.
wasn't necessarily a community benefits agreement in terms of one of these contracts with community
Right.
groups, but there was an idea of what kind of community benefits and commitments to living wage jobs and all these other things. So I think you're going to continue to see that, but I think there's a little bit more skepticism and a little bit more just sort of let's wait and see what we can negotiate here. I don't know what it will look like, if you say sit down for a soccer stadium. I don't. It kind of depends on what NYCFC and the Bronx delegation and the new Bronx Borough president
Right. And
wants
and
to do.
one of the things you pointed out, and I'm just considering it while we're talking, is who sits around the table. And this is just off the top of my head. Remember, and using the Kingsbridge Armory as an example, there, Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition, and there were other people who were involved. I believe it was pretty fair-minded, so they brought in, like, the merchants who were concerned about being gentrified out and all that kind of stuff. Of course, it's can't really use that as a test case because the project at the moment is is, not going anywhere. Um, uh, you
In
are gonna
stasis, let's call it.
you are gonna do some, follow-ups on this. I highly recommend it for all the people I know in the Bronx, and there are many who wanna know, number 1, what happened with, the Yankee Stadium, revitalization and Yankee Stadium, new Yankee Stadium and the Bronx Terminal Market. How did that turn from what it was into what it is? Um, so you can read that in Neil's article, but the other thing is the concepts that we're talking about. I suppose because of what I do, I was less familiar with Barclays Center. So, what are you working on next? What becomes the next part of this? To keep talking about what might be what might be a dead issue. I don't know how we would
Well,
take a look
I
at
mean, I
that.
think part of it is to evaluate more what went wrong and what could have been done better, right? And what could be done better in the future. And I think there are all sorts of different ideas of the original idea of community benefits agreements was a legitimate one, right? Let's figure out a way to try and make things work
Absolutely.
for more people. And I think that there's ideas about ways of trying to, whether it's replace CBAs with something else, or reform them. But I mean, ultimately the question has to be: is this something that is worth pursuing? Is
Right.
can we find a way to have deals between community groups and developers that is equitable? Or really is it something that has to be, other things have to be addressed? I mean, basically the again, it's that power inequity, right? If the developers have all the cards, it's very hard for anybody to sit across the table and make a deal with them.
Very quick last question, different topic. You, I believe, were on the show the last time you were here. We talked about it. Um, do you think the idea of public stock ownership in a a soccer stadium can work to help us maybe take the place of a CBA when it comes to a soccer stadium potentially in the Bronx?
That's one of the things I'm looking into for one of my next
Oh,
articles. So I will have an
okay.
answer for you in a couple of months at City Limits.
All right. Wow, I hit right on it. Okay, because that is one of the things, and of course, for folks who don't know, you look up the book Field of Schemes, and you can learn all about how these stadiums are built or not built in neighborhoods all across America. Neil DeMoss, it's always a pleasure. Never enough time because you and I could go at it for a long time, as we demonstrated on the phone the other day.
Happy to come
So
back when another article runs.
yes, yes, we'll get it out there and we'll take care of you. Always nice to see you. Folks, we're gonna take a short break, and then when we come back, as I said, the aforementioned videographer, filmmaker, actor, all of the above will be on the program. Don't go away.
Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, members of the Bronx Task Force on Fire Safety, and city agencies held a press conference regarding updates on the mental, physical, and financial support to those impacted by the Twin Park fire.
We just wanted to make sure that the public and Bronxites knew the work we've done in this entire week.
Residents and city agencies have come together to support those in need. For every household, the Mayor's Fund has donated $1,000. Bank of America matched the $1,000 donation and added $50 for ATM fees. And the Met Council donated 200 food cards totaling $2,250, going to 118 households. City agencies and elected officials have also provided air purifiers and permitted housing. They understand just how traumatic it can be to return to the building, so the city is following the residents' lead.
You don't have to go back. You can move elsewhere. We're not forcing you. We're not encouraging you. I'm just saying, whatever you want to do, we will honor that.
All involved are working as hard and as fast as they can to disperse funds and help residents return to normal as soon as possible.
It's very important that we continue to have a coordinated message of the city agencies, our nonprofit partners, the elected officials, as we all work.
Throughout the past week, There has been an abundance of support from the community. Families have donated an overwhelming amount of clothes at multiple locations. While locations are still receiving clothes, Vanessa Gibson urges residents to help out financially if possible.
Right now, the monetary contributions are the best because even if you return to your home, you want to replace your furniture, your clothes, everything. So you're going to need money. You're going to need tangible cash.
To get involved and to donate, follow the link below. Reporting for BronxNet, Brittany Schuyler Albane.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at bronxnet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. We switch gears, we switch hats, and we say hello to Danielle Alonso. Let's see now. Hi, Danielle. Dan, I'm just going to give the credits. We do the credits before the show in this case. She's a writer, director, and executive producer of Bronx-ish, which we're going to find out about. She has been cast in ABC's Diversity Showcase. She has had roles on CBS's FBI, on HBO's High Maintenance. I don't know if she is high maintenance. We'll find out in just a moment. Nice to see you, Danielle. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. This is exciting. I am not high maintenance. I'm very
okay.
high maintenance.
She's
Yeah.
chill.
I'm
Okay. So talk to me a little bit just about you. You were just telling me about the first time you were ever in front of a camera or you had this idea that you could be doing this sort of thing.
No, it didn't click again until after high school, but my mom did try when I was a young kid to put me in some things. I was around 2 or 3 and she tried to get me into modeling, and they put me in a private room, and when they took me back out, they told her she doesn't listen.
I have to tell you, I will applaud that because you know who you're talking to.
Yeah, they said we can't
Tremendous.
control her. So then she tried again.
I have to interject. My son, we did the same with my son, and he was a little boy, and he went to they had him eat potato chips because of a potato chip, and they said, eat potato chips. He goes, why would I?
Yeah.
so that didn't work. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So she tried then. I didn't listen. And then about 9, they had like an Oscar Mayer commercial. They were holding it in the Bronx in like a supermarket parking lot. And I went out for that. Like, my bologna has a first name. Whatever. They didn't pick me. And
How could they not?
Huh?
How could they not?
That's what I'm saying. I did it. I mean, I was into it.
Right.
And then in high school, I went to a performing arts high school. So I did a little bit of vocal, a little bit of dance, and then I did improv. And
here we are today. So tell me about Bronx-ish. That's like Bronx, but Bronx-ish.
It's actually the expletive I can't say. So it's the stuff that happens in the Bronx.
Which all of our viewers can relate to, I'm sure.
Yes. So pretty much it follows me going after my career as an actor and all the adventures and all the stuff that I deal with, that I experience, all from my perspective. Living at home. I mean, first season, it was living at home and auditioning and getting pulled over by a cop and trying to flirt my way out of a ticket. I mean, that's just a day in the life of me living in the Bronx.
And, these photographs indicate that, it's not only that you are in front of the camera, but you're also kind of running the whole thing. At what point did you say, you know what, maybe I ought to do something with this, not just me trying to get roles and being on TV or films or whatever?
Well, I've always had a bit of a control issue. So that helps.
That's come up already 3 times. in our 4 minutes together.
I'm open about all my stuff, but I had always been a writer, but again, I never put it together that I would write in my career. I just always enjoyed writing. And then maybe 2014, I had seen some live acts of women doing one-woman shows and creating their own content, and I said, I can do that. I impersonate people all the time. I can do that. And so that's really how it started. In 2014, I had a one woman show, and I wrote it and directed it and performed it. And the success of it really gave me that confidence to know that, wow, I think I'm kind of good at it. There's something here. Let me continue that. And so I did it again in 2015, and that show was sold out. And then in 2017, I said, I want to make this a web series. I'm auditioning for other people's content, other people's student films. I said, I can do this. So that's really where the idea came from.
And what's so interesting to me is that, and we interview so many Bronx artists and filmmakers and photographers and everything else. You, it's like your artwork has to be original because you have a story to tell that nobody else knows. We have 1.4 million people here, and I say this all the time: nobody knows who we are. Nobody knows how we live. Nobody knows anything about us. Seems to me it's what characterizes our work as Bronx artists or Bronx performers very, very well. And I'm assuming this is what you have in season 2 of Bronx-ish are everyday things that we all, and I say we, our family in the Bronx, we all deal with.
Yeah. I mean, I think I enjoy sharing my perspective, my world. I'm in season 2. You see me visiting my grandma, my Puerto Rican grandma. She came here when she was 9. You see me getting therapy. You know what that looks like. I moved out. That's a big thing that happened in season 2 that I was struggling with in season 1. So it's really following me on this journey of of acting. And I just share my world. I share my point of view. And a lot of New Yorkers, a lot of Bronx people, there's so many, yes, oh my God, that's so true. Oh my God, that happened to me. It's our world. It's our perspective that makes it special. Hilarious.
There were a number of items. We'll review all of them right after. We're going to take a look at a trailer. But I just love this: when you need therapy from your therapy. I love that. You leave your therapy session and you got to talk to somebody
That
because
really
I don't know what's going. I'm sure it did. All right, so Bronx-ish season 2. We'll talk about where people can see it and everything else. But we're going to take a look. This is snippets, little trailer. Pieces of Bronx-ish from Danielle Alonso. Let's take a look.
Oh, are you an actor?
Yeah.
That's mi linda.
Aquí en la lucha. It makes me feel like I'm not going to get past this. Like I already see myself in a straitjacket. If the shoe fits.
You never been to his house.
Never.
And he's asking you for money.
See, that's.
I'm a little confused.
Yeah. Do you own the bike lane? Like, do you have stocks invested? Do you think this is Monopoly? Do you think this is Boardwalk, Park Place, Illinois, the railroads? I don't know.
All right, there we go. Congratulations. Do you first of all, before I ask more questions, where can people see it? Now season 2 is here. What do we got to do to check
I
it out?
actually just dropped that trailer today.
Right.
So our YouTube channel is Bronx-ish, spelled out just the same way. Our Instagram, TikTok, all that, Facebook is Bronx-ish _. So just Bronx ISH _. You can find us on social media.
So the subjects that we have had summarized here: when you're an adult woman stuck with your mom in an apartment in New York City during the pandemic, how many of us? I mean, I would never have been an adult woman, but how many Bronx adult women know about that? When you finally move out and have to adult on your own. And when you need therapy from your therapy, when you walk down the block in the Bronx, or as you were growing up, do you visualize things and say, "Wow, this can be a segment. I mean, it's like somebody said they wrote their autobiography, and they said, "Where do you get your ideas from?" Well, from my life.
Yeah. It oftentimes does happen like that. There's characters all the time. I'm walking down the street, I'm on the bus, I'm driving, something happens. I usually record it on my phone or make a note of it. Like, this just happened. This is funny. And then other times I just make it up in my head. Like, this would be really funny if this happened. But pretty much everything I've written is stuff I've experienced. The bike lane, I got in an argument with a lady walking in the bike lane, going to an audition. Someone on the train asking me about an audition as I'm really preparing. That's happened many times. Therapy, having a really bad therapy session when I need it the most, that has happened. So it's funny in hindsight, usually not funny in the moment.
When it happens.
Yeah.
And so I guess the quote unquote genius of it is being able to take that and turn that into something that communicates to people. Um, I got to ask you this. Everybody eats, which is staring us right in the face. What is
Yep.
that?
So that's actually a quote I got from a movie. That's a lot of my neighborhood people, my people we love. It's from Paid in Full, but it stands for everybody eats, everybody wins, everybody's gonna get money, everybody's gonna get it. There's enough for everyone, and I really do believe that, especially in the world of acting and an artist. Some people don't start because they think it's too hard and I'm not gonna get a chance. And no, life, God says there's enough for everyone. So
I had you and I were talking about it before the show, and I was saying it's everybody around the table. I mean, that's really what we're talking about. All right, so what's next for you? I mean, you've done this, and now you're just going to work on promoting it, or do you already start thinking about? Gee, I was on Bronx TV. We're going to make that a segment because that was.
This helps. We're so grateful. This definitely helps spreading the word, getting people to pay attention. We have creators, women, Afro Latina creators, writing, directing, producing their own content. It's a lot of work. We still are accepting donations for post production. My first episode is dropping 2/2/22 because my favorite number is 2. We'll be releasing one episode every week on YouTube, so they should definitely subscribe to the channel and just support creators, Bronx creators doing it.
Yeah, there's no question about it. So let's go to Bronx-ish on YouTube, and
Yes.
that's the way you're going to do it. How prolific are you? Do you create in your mind all the time? That's what I guess. I always love getting into an artist's muse.
So,
or at this point, you're not even going to think about it because you're working on other stuff. We got about 40 seconds for you.
Once this was done, I felt a release. I got it all out. But as the inspiration comes, I make a note of it. And before you know it, over time,
there you go.
I got content.
Yep. Listen, Danielle Alonso, Bronx-ish. Let's check it out on YouTube. I'm definitely going to subscribe because I want to see all the cool stuff that comes out. Love to see what Bronx people are saying about our lives because nobody else is doing it. BronxNet does it. That's why we're here, and that's why we love to have you with us. And guess what? You do something else, we'll bring you back. That's how it'll work.
Thank you so much. This was great.
A pleasure to meet you and a pleasure to have you. And we obviously, BronxNet and me personally and Rebecca, our producer, we all are so enthusiastic about Bronx artists. So that's about it, folks. We'll see you next week. More Bronx Buzz. Good night.